Alright everybody, now we're going to look at doing a little bit more of a realistic type water. It's really, you're going to be able to associate it kind of with a lot of old photos you've seen. The one I think of immediately is the old Nessie photo, where you get this kind of grainy, kind of blurry type water, often associated with photos, so with depth of field and such. So we're going to go ahead and create something similar to that, except with color, that you can use as that kind of three-quarter perspective. Alrighty, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is hit D, which resets my colors, and X to flip them around. I'm going to fill this with white. And now for some of the operations we have coming up, I need this to be a smart object. So I'm going to hit Convert to Smart Object by right-clicking on the layer. Alright, now we're ready to go. Next, we need some noise. So we're going to add some noise, right around 65% and uniform. Don't need to worry about monochromatic because we're working with black and white, so it's not an option, it just will be. And we've got our noise layer. Alright. Next, we're going to blur this a little bit. So we'll come down to blur. Gaussian blur, and somewhere around like 5 pixels. That should do nicely. Now we're going to need another filter from our filter gallery. We're coming to our chalk and charcoal, and this doesn't look anything like water, but bear with me, it's going to work out. Have your charcoal area at 6 and your chalk area at 6, but a stroke pressure way down at 1. Otherwise, you'll get something really blown out like that. And we'll click OK. And looking good so far. So we're going to go back, and I told you this was going to be blurry. So we're going to do a Gaussian blur again. This time, like 7.5. And that should do nicely. And then back to our filter gallery. It's a lot of back and forth on this one, but the effect is good. We're going to go to bas relief, detail at 2, smoothness at 2, and light from the bottom, because from the bottom we'll work with our gradient better. We don't want a whole bunch of detail because it starts to get way too strong and this gets way too blurry. So just down to 2 and 2. Just all we're really doing is using this to convert that chalk and charcoal that we got. So there we go. That's looking pretty good. Now we're going to blur again, but this time we're going to use motion blur. And we want it at a 0 angle, anywhere between like 100 and 120. Should be pretty good. Now you can see we're already starting to get that kind of depth of field black and white photo look. So we're doing pretty good. Now we're going to do one more Gaussian blur. Blurry, 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 blurry. Now it's really starting to get that look. Next, we're going to add a gradient map. So come down here. Grab our adjustments, create an adjustment layer, gradient map. Then we're going to go in, click on our open area up here, which will open up the editor. I'm going to click on the arrow of this side over here, which gives us access to our color. And I'm going to pick a really light color again. And then back over here, pick a really dark color. And I didn't get my color. What did I do? Hang on. Oh, heck. One of these days I gotta figure out why Photoshop does this to me. Yep. I was on grayscale. This may totally screw me up. And we're not going to merge them. We're just going to see what happens. Alrighty, well, let's see what we get now. Okay. Try this again. Color. And I wasn't thinking I want the dark color first. There we go. And the light blue next. There we go, much happier. Now it's starting to look like water. Alright, now that we got that worked out, we're going to do another layer. And I'm going to fill it with white again. Basically, we're going to kind of repeat what we did, but not quite. So we're going to put in some more noise. And I want this to be a little noisier. Doesn't have to be a lot. Just anywhere in the 75 to 90 range is fine. Alrighty, we're going to blur that again. Some Gaussian blur. Somewhere right around that 5 range. Alright. And we're going to come up to Filter, Filter Gallery. Going to be in Sketch still. This time we're going to choose halftone pattern. And a size of 1. And a contrast of 50. And that's just fine. And Filter, Filter Gallery. And we're going to go back to our bas relief again. And same setting, slit from the bottom, 2 and 2. Alright, that's just fine. And we're going to come back and do a little blur. And just like last time, we'll push that up a little. And then we're going to go in and do a little motion blur. About the same setting. Alrighty. Now let's go over and pick a new layer. Soft light's pretty good. And let's see, we're going to do a another adjustment layer. This time we're going to do brightness contrast. And we'll set this, the brightness about 9. Contrast about 100. And then we're going to right click on this and choose Create Clipping Mask, which is going to clip these results to this layer immediately below it. Close that out. Now above that we're going to create another adjustment layer, but this time we want a gradient map. And we're going to go back in again, choose our colors. This one we're going to get over here in the yellows. Get kind of over here pretty dark. And then on this end, we're going to yellow that up too. Do a little more like that. That should do. Now why would I do that? Because I want to introduce some of that ambient atmosphere color like sunlight into our waves. Now right now it looks like heck because everything's turned gold. We're going to set this to soft light. And you're kind of getting like a line. If you like it, run with it. But I'm going to take the opacity to about half. And it's a very subtle effect. But it just kind of introduces a little yellow color information into this to give it a little bit more of a environmental look. Okie dokie. Now, since this is meant to be kind of a 3/4 view, I'm going to go ahead and, if you want to, you can save this out as is. But since it's meant to be from a view that's got some perspective, I'm going to select layer 2, or, you know, if you're a good person and not a terrible person like me, your named layer and your other named layer. I'm going to select both of those holding down Control, not Shift, because that'll select the gradient map in between as well. Just Control. Hit Control T. Oh yeah, don't show me that again. Ignore that. Right click, Perspective, and once again I'm going to grab this out. And if that happens, don't freak out. That's what that little warning was. It said basically I have to turn this off being a smart object until you're done fiddling with it. So we'll apply that, and there, now we've got a little perspective to it. So that's just set you up with another water texture. There's a lot of ways out there to do it. Those are two of my favorites. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next video.